Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Thanks for tuning in. I really appreciate it. Today I'm talking about original scores versus soundtracks and something that really upsets me. So, first, I'm going to explain some stuff and then I'm going to jump into what kind of makes me upset. So, first, I'm going to explain what an original score is and what a soundtrack is. So first, we'll talk about an original score. So an original score is an instrumental piece of music made by a composer meant to accompany what the viewer is experiencing on screen pretty much. It's typically performed by an orchestra, sometimes a symphony, or a band depending on the mood and the movie style and what they're trying to achieve. This type of music is used as an auditory cue as well, guiding the viewer through changes and emotions throughout the film. A good way of understanding how this works throughout the film is if you notice a piece of music, it continues to play multiple times throughout the movie and you kind of recognize it. That is typically what you would call a theme, and that theme will sound familiar, but there'll be a subtle change, and that subtle change is that auditory cue that I was explaining earlier, where that theme is representing usually a character. So that character's theme comes on, but that theme will be slightly different, and the slight change may be it's sped up. That would mean possibly an action scene or something along those lines, or maybe that exact same theme adds strings to the theme that would make it maybe be like a sad, somber type of change for that character. So yeah, that's basically what the job of an original score is. It's to accompany the movie's emotional journey, pretty much. So now we have to talk about what a soundtrack is. So a soundtrack is a collection of songs, mostly with lyrics. I can't think of a soundtrack or a song that fits a soundtrack that doesn't have lyrics. That's like the defining characteristic of a song that belongs on a soundtrack. It is a song with lyrics. It'll either be licensed music that already exists, that was hand selected to be put in the film, or it'll be original music with lyrics that were made specifically for the film. These songs are usually played during like action scenes or at the very end or beginning of a movie, like during the credits or at the very beginning. This is usually because they take center stage because of the lyrics. So there's usually not a lot of dialogue, so an action scene wouldn't have a lot of dialogue. The end of the movie with the credits or the very beginning wouldn't have dialogue, and that's because songs fit for a soundtrack take center stage. So those are perfect times for them to be put in the movie when there's little to no dialogue needed. Those are the best definitions that I could come up with for what an original score and an original soundtrack is. Okay, now that I've kind of explained what a soundtrack track is and a original score track is, now we can kind of see the differences between the two. One very easy identifier, in my opinion, is songs that have no lyrics. Those are songs that are going to be on original scores. Songs that have lyrics are going to be on soundtracks. Songs that already exist, were not created specifically for the film, aka licensed music, that is going to be on a soundtrack as well. Pretty much any song that has lyrics is going to be fit for a soundtrack. A song that typically has no lyrics is going to be for an original score. That's the best way for me to explain the major differences. Now you're probably asking, HP, who cares? Well, I know one person that cares. Me. I care about this stuff. Number one, because I'm a stickler. I have OCD, and I think that things that are labeled should be categorized properly, and maybe by the end of this video you'll care about some of this stuff too. Now, why does any of this stuff matter? Why I think it matters is because I'm a huge fan of music and film, music and video games, music and TV shows. I mean, I love all of it. In my personal opinion, music is one of the most vital parts of all of these mediums. Video games, maybe not so much, but the other two, music is huge. TV shows and movies, music is a huge part of what a movie and what a TV show is. And that's one of the main reasons I love these three mediums so much, because of the music, and why I'm such a big fan of music in these mediums is because you can kind of relive awesome moments that you had when you experience a really cool scene from a movie, a really cool scene from a TV show, a moment from a video game. When that music is heard again afterwards, for me it kind of takes me right back to when I first saw that scene. The music that went with it, it brings me right back to it. I liken it to the phenomena that Pharrell has. He has what is called, I'm going to try to say this word without messing it up. Pharrell has synesthesia. There we go. Which basically allows him to see colors and shapes when he hears music, which I think is pretty damn cool. When I listen to a score, I can see the scenes in my head, and I think it would be really cool if other people were able to do the same thing. I'm not the only one that likes movies. I'm not the only one that likes the music in these mediums, movies, TV shows, video games. There's plenty of other people that like it. Now you're probably saying, well, what the heck is the problem? Well, for me, I've kind of explained a little bit about, I guess, backstory. I kind of bored you to death with what a original score is and what a soundtrack is. I apologize, but it was necessary to put you through that. So let's say you watch a movie and you're looking for the original score so you can relive some of those cool scenes you loved from the film. Well, you may run into some trouble when looking for the score. Yeah, you may continue to get hits, like you're on Google and you type in the particular song or whatever it is. You may find yourself getting hits for the soundtrack instead of the original score. And that really makes me pretty sad, because I'm not a gatekeeper in any way. I used to be, but not a gatekeeper, especially when it comes to getting more fans of music in film specifically. Like, I think that's freaking cool. Music and video games. Anytime I meet somebody who is a fan of music, of any video game, I'm like, that guy's cool. That girl's cool. That's my kind of people. So I'm in no way, shape, or form trying to push people away from that. I'm trying to get more people into this world. So when I know for a fact that I've struggled finding pieces of music before, I know other people are as well. And the problem is soundtrack versus original score, and labeling them as such, but not properly labeling them makes it really hard to find stuff. It'd be like you have a bin, you have like 3 or 4 bins full of stuff, and each one corresponds to a specific thing. You know, that's like trash cans, right? You got trash, recyclables, and compost. And you get somebody comes to pick it all up, and people are throwing trash in the compost and recycling in the trash, and it's like, I can't, you know. And people do this all the time. I see this every day, and I don't want to get like super deep into this, but this is part of the problem. Is a lot of people just don't care about these things. A lot of people are what I call bots, and they just walk through life and they don't care. And that's fine, that's your prerogative, but you make things tougher for people who do care, and that really sucks. You get a lot of people that will say it's not that deep, bro, and you're right, it's not that deep for you, but you got to remember everything means something to someone, and you should always try to respect that and not devalue something just because it is important to you, because it can clearly be important to someone else. If you're saying that phrase, it's not that deep, bro, to somebody, there's a pretty good chance that they are making it that deep for a reason. They feel it, for whatever reason, more deeply than you. So you shouldn't devalue how they are feeling. But I am not a therapist or a psychologist, so I will stop right there. But yeah, that is the main problem that I have with scores versus soundtracks, and them being defined a certain way, but they're not necessarily labeled that way. And it can make it hard for people to find one or the other. To the average person, a solution to this problem is not worth the time at all, because there's no problem to be had. And I can, outside of me being a stickler, I can kind of agree with that sentiment. Like, what's the problem, HP? I don't understand. But for me, like I explained earlier, why I see it as a problem is because when somebody wants to re-experience that great moment from a movie or a TV show or a video game, but they can't because they cannot find that piece of music, that is a problem that requires a solution. And a couple more things that I want to kind of show really make it hard to distinguish between the two. So, ever heard of the Grammys before? Of course you have. The Grammys have a award to give for music in film and TV and such. And the award is confusingly called, this is exactly what it's called, Grammy Award for Best Score Soundtrack for Visual Media. Why couldn't they call it something different? I mean, putting Best Score Soundtrack without, it's like they blurred it all together. Why do they want to put it all together without differentiating between a score or a soundtrack? Now, don't get me wrong, I understand why you would want to do an award for both, but not differentiating both is just weird, and it just adds to the problem. Why couldn't they call it the Grammy Award for Best Score or Soundtrack for Visual Media? Like, literally, one word makes a huge difference. And it seems like the industry of music in film created these two labels, soundtrack and original score. They created these two, but nobody cares to abide by the definitions. I do want to kind of go back a little bit to something that I was talking about with the whole, bro, it's not that deep type thing, right? Well, I went on about that a little bit, but something I would say to that person that's saying it's not that deep, specifically about this, would be watch a movie or a TV show with no music. And if they're not a bot, which they probably are if they're saying that, but if they're not a bot, they'll realize, okay, I see the importance of the music now. I've actually watched a film with no music, a pretty big film, Interstellar. It's 2014. I'm all excited. I take my girlfriend at the time to go watch this movie. It's opening day. It was IMAX. One of those really good IMAX theaters, the ones that like the seats actually go like it's a steep incline. Yeah, it was a really good theater. It was a great, gonna be a good movie night. We're headed to the theater. We get there on time. We get there early, actually. We're waiting around. The movie starts. no music, no audio. But I thought, hey, Christopher Nolan's got something crazy cooked up this time. Well, I wonder why there's no audio. I wonder how this is gonna work out. There's got to be some crazy whatever. So we're watching it, and then 5 minutes go by, and it's like their mouths are moving and everything. Why is there still no audio and no music whatsoever? And I know Hans Zimmer is doing the music for this movie. Like, when does his music come in? Well, what's going on? And then 10 minutes, 15 minutes rolls by, and I'm like, they're talking a lot. There's probably information that we're missing that would really be beneficial if we could hear. Long story short, the audio was messed up for whatever reason with the IMAX reel or whatever, so the audio just wasn't present at all. And I think if I would have watched Interstellar for the first time normally and then rewatched it in that situation where there was no audio and no music and just no audio whatsoever, it would be a lot easier for me to pinpoint, because I already know what they're saying, what they're talking about, and going, oh, it's not that bad. But watching it for the first time ever with no audio for the first 30 minutes, and then we left the theater at that point. We got our refunds, and we went to another theater about 30 minutes away, and we got to watch the movie anyway with sound. But watching it for the first time ever, and without the music, are you kidding me? Without the music in Interstellar, like, that movie is not the same. Don't get me wrong, it's probably a really good movie, but it's not the same at all without Hans Zimmer's score. So yeah, I would say that to somebody who says that is not that deep, bro. Well, maybe to you, but to most people would be viewing a lot of movies differently without the music. Certain genres, I would say it's paramount. Without music, that movie would just not be worth a damn. So that's what I would say to those people. So I wish I was done with all the different variants or weird things that soundtracks and original scores and original motion pictures and the Grammy Award for Best Music, just all this stuff. There's another thing to add to it. That would be OST. Have you ever seen this before? It'll be OST. That's it. And it's like, well, what the heck is this? Well, it stands for Original Soundtrack. OST. Literally, it's combining both an original score and a soundtrack into one title. And I don't know about you, but that seems to not be helping at all. So if an OST is comprised only of tracks that we identified earlier as an original score, so that would mean if a OST is made of tracks that have no lyrics, made by a composer with an orchestra or a band or a symphony, and it was on an OST, why the heck would you want the word soundtrack involved in the name? I'm just saying, why would you want that? It doesn't make any sense to me. And then there's the vice versa, it just muddying the waters for no reason. So, kind of interesting. After extensive research, I was able to find out that an OST is a collection of all the original music made specifically for a film or a show or a video game, which is kind of cool, I guess. But come on, I've been a fan of this genre, music in video games and film and TV shows, for a long time. I mean, one of the first scores that I absolutely loved was Road to Perdition. That movie came out in the early 2000s. And I've been a fan of this music for a really long time, and I did not know that. So how the heck do you expect newcomers, people that are listening to, people that are barely getting into their movie era, whatever you want to call it, trying to look for movies and getting into the classics and whatnot, and they end up liking music from film or a TV show. And an OST, like, it's just very confusing is all I'm trying to say. It's extremely confusing the way they do this. And it upsets me because, like I said, I've been a fan of this for well over a decade, probably 2 now. I'm a little older. And I barely found this out by being so frustrated with making this video. I stumbled upon it. So other people, it's going to take them a lot longer, or possibly never. They will never find that out. Again, it makes me very, very freaking sad. I do think there's some light at the end of the tunnel, so to speak, because as frustrating as this whole situation might look, I do think that the OST label would solve a lot of the confusion with the whole thing. If we were to just use OST going forward, if it was used for every piece of music, for movies, TVs, and video games going forward, unless all the music was indeed an original score or it was all soundtrack. Like if it was all music with lyrics, call it a soundtrack. If it's all music that's by a composer with no lyrics and it fits the criteria of an original score, then just call it that, an original score. But if you have a mixture of both, then many movies have done this. They have a mixture of both, right? And then they call it a soundtrack. But that can be confusing. A good example would be Lion King. They have some songs that have no lyrics. Then they have other songs that have lyrics, are literally songs by popular artists like Elton John, and come on. And what they did is they call it a soundtrack, which can be very confusing, but I think an even better alternative would be to call it an OST going forward. If it's going to be a mixture of both, call it an OST. Then you understand, oh, this is a compilation of everything. They just put it all on there. Even though the definition is original music, I would be okay with that, even if licensed music made it onto an OST, just because it would be that third bin. Like I was explaining earlier, the trash, recycle, the compost. So you have the original score, and then you have the soundtrack, and then there's some that don't fit that. Have that third one be an OST. Dump it all into the OST pile. And then you have organization. If it's all if it's all original score, it goes into this bin. If it's all soundtrack, it goes into this bin. And if it doesn't fit either of those two, throw it into the miscellaneous bin, being the OST. I would love to see that going forward. Maybe it has already happened because OST is very prominent now, but I'm not 100% sure. So if you have noticed that, let me know. Yeah, because I think that's a great solution to what I view as a problem with all this. So lastly, I want to say this. You can throw out all the information that I said in this video. You really can. If you really want to find a piece of music that you hear in a movie or a video game or a TV show, wait until the credits roll and look for the composer who lent their talent to that score. Looking up their name as well as the movie in a Google search should lead you to the correct album. If it's a licensed song or an original song, it will come up in the credits where they list all the songs. Usually it's near the end of the film, and they'll have all the licensed songs, all the original songs in a certain section, so you can find it that way. It'll have the name of the song, the artist, it'll even have the record label, and a couple other pertinent pieces of information that will help you find the song that you're looking for. Now, if it is a song that isn't in the movie, but you know that it exists because you heard that the artist has a song made for the film, then it is more than likely on the official soundtrack. That one is kind of harder to find because it won't be in the movie anywhere, but it might be on the radio. There's a lot of songs that won't be in the movie at all, but they'll be part of the soundtrack, and they'll be a really good song, but they just won't fit in the movie, and so it'll just be on the soundtrack instead. That's kind of like a need to know in order to find out type of thing, because if you don't know about it, then how the hell are you going to know to look for that soundtrack? So yeah, it's kind of, that one's a lot tougher to find. Unfortunately, I don't really have too much information on how to find that. I guess it was a lot harder back in the day, but now with social media, if you're a fan of that artist, then if you're following them on any of their socials, eventually you'll find out. So there are two reasons why I'm making this video. The first being the artists. I love this type of genre. I love movies, so like I explained in the video, I think that the music is a big part of that, and so I love the artists that make the music, and I want these guys to be celebrated. I mean, John Williams, Thomas Newman, Harry Gregson Williams, Hans Zimmer, Danny Elfman, people know these guys, but you know, if people weren't able to find these guys' music, then it would be a lot different. I feel they wouldn't be as popular. There are plenty of other artists out there that I absolutely love that are making really great scores over the years, like smaller names, Michael and Jeff Dana, Tom York and Johnny Greenwood from Radiohead. They make scores. Mogwai just did a score for a TV show. I've never seen or heard anything about this show, but I want to watch this show just because of that score. And yeah, these guys deserve to be celebrated, but how can they be celebrated? How can their work be celebrated if it is this hard to find the music? And I've struggled for many years with trying to find this type of music. There's been songs that have escaped me for a very long time. That's why I've accumulated so much knowledge about this subject. Others have gone through this as well. Maybe you have. I don't want that to happen anymore. So I really hope this video can help you to find out ways to find the music that you hear in a movie or a show or a video game. If you struggled with this before, let me know in the comments. If you have a better solution, maybe you found out a way, a hack or whatever, let us know as well. And that's about it. I apologize for all the information and got a little boring there, but I appreciate it. I'll see you in the next one.